Welcome to Cape Breton Movers and Shakers, where we have conversations with people who are doing positive things here in Cape Breton. I'm Richard Lorway, president of goCapeBreton.com. Today I'm talking with Matthew Swan, director of the Nova Scotia Power Makerspace in the historic North End of Sydney. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you. Good to be here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So what is a makerspace?
A makerspace has about as many definitions as a corner store. They can be 1,000 different flavors. Makerspace could be as simple as children in a school, and they're cutting things with scissors and gluing them together. It could be that simple. A makerspace could be as complicated as has happened in some of the auto manufacturers, where they have a dedicated specific room where their engineers go to beat out hard problems. So it's really wide open.
And so I guess the core of it is that people are making things in a space.
Absolutely. It's a space to pull a bunch of heads together and develop real things.
Right. So how did Nova Scotia Power Makerspace come about?
I guess we'd have to blame Bob Pelly from
Okay.
Nova Corp for a lot of that.
I know Bob, yes. Yeah.
So there was a need identified back quite a number of years. And the need was to have a space for people who were doing physical prototype products, development, R&D, whatever, a space to go, some equipment to use for developing whatever it is that they needed to develop. And so Bob was fairly instrumental in making that actually come to be. Through Nova Corp, there was a project called the Momentum Project that pulled that together. Also came with some other things like a local entrepreneur in residence and specific helps for startups. So where that came from, I'm sure many would remember, you go back in the days of the CAD Camp Center, really,
Right.
where local companies, quite a number of local companies, used the services of the CAD Camp Center to develop their prototypes back in the days of Bill Bugg.
Exactly. Yeah.
Carl Mercer as well. That's when I was there as a student. And so my perspective being in the CAD Camp Center as a student was seeing random people from the community come in and say, I need a gear, I need this part, I'm developing this product, can you help me? And that's where a lot of the springboard, the context, the reference comes from in my mind.
Right.
Is because I saw it firsthand. And that went away, which was a huge loss for the community. And, then along with that, you see other companies around. I did time working with Advanced Glazings, where there was a lot of ability to use their equipment to develop things. So there was a few different data points that showed how well that worked to get people's ideas turned into reality. And those things, for different reasons, insurance being one of them, became more difficult. And so there was a real gap. And that gap being identified was one that we've had the privilege of filling largely.
Right. Okay. So what is the mission of the space?
The mission has evolved. The mission started out, it was pretty simple, to encourage the birth of new products, because with new products come new companies, new manufacturing, new exports. So it really was very business focused in the beginning. Still large part of what we do, but the community has really asked us to be more. So the vision has sort of expanded from just products to product and idea development. And I say that we're seeing more wider uses. Anything that you would use a backyard shop for, anything you'd use a garage, anything you might use a grandparent's barn for, right through to local engineers developing products, and they don't have that particular 3D printer or tool. So we're becoming more than just product development. There's a lot of training happens. There's a lot of collaboration. We're giving advice on designs, and we're connecting people, and we're finding materials for them. And it really has broadened a lot.
Right. So how did you first become involved?
I was working with Bill Did It a project that happened
Oh,
in
yes. Yep.
Sidport,
Yep.
Joe Minchevsky. I was working there at the same time that Bob Pelly had an office in the same building.
Right.
And Bill Did It at the time was heading down a very similar road of, hey, we have all this beautiful equipment to develop our own products. Let's make this available to the community in the same way as the CAD Camp Center and other places were. And when that was no longer, the vision was still there. And in conversations with Bob, that there was the possibility of something like that happening. And I put myself forward very quickly, said, look, happy to jump in and help any way we can to make that happen, because I know the value of it. I
Right.
know how much people would want that and use it.
Right. So what is your background? Are you a mechanical engineer?
I did the mechanical engineering tech back in the 90s at UTCB.
Right.
So I'm an old guy now, I guess. We go
You're
back
in good
before
company.
CBU. Yeah, so I did the mechanical engineering tech. I did some CNC machining. I was several years doing research and development and coordination of advanced glazings. I had my own business for a few years doing a variety of things. Worked with Bill Did It doing custom designs of musical equipment, which was very interesting.
Cymbals, wasn't it?
We were doing all sorts of mechanisms for drum kits.
Right. Okay.
It was really interesting because people think that a drum kit is a drum kit and you can't add anything to it. And we developed a dozen new products together with Bill Cody from Bert Hawkesbury, brilliant guy. But that path, that whole idea through to complete item that's for sale on the market, there's nothing quite like that journey. Very, very
Right.
interesting. I spent a few years at Target Hydraulics doing designs and coordination for them, and now I'm here.
Right. So maker spaces of the kind that you operate, they're a bit of a worldwide phenomenon, are they not?
Absolutely. Um, I did a fair bit of research probably 4 years ago now, in preparation for and helping out with what exactly do we want to have here. They're all across the world. They're wide in variety, but the commonality among them, as already, I guess we talked about a little, the commonality is people from every walk coming together because they need to make things.
Right.
It seems to be that a large part of that is, we're what, 52% now in Canada, I think, or more of people living in places that they don't have access at all to any kind of workshop, workroom. They have nothing. So there's this pent up creative energy that's looking for a place to go. And that's all across the world. It probably a little ahead of us in Europe. And then it moved to the US, and now Canada's catching up as we start creating these third spaces. And I know that term is used for a lot of things, but it is a real thing. You've got your work life, you've got your home life, and some third space to balance things. A great outlet for creativity. So the makerspace movement has been, what are we, probably 40 years in the making, but really in the last decade, it has really, really jumped.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so you mentioned, we talked about equipment, just you referred to it, but what kinds of equipment do you have there?
We have the equipment for metalworking.
Mm-hmm.
We've got equipment for woodworking. We have a 3D lab that's got a 3D scanner, several 3D printers. We've got 3D design software. That's kind of the brains, that's the core of what we have. We've got an electronics robotics lab, and we've got various tools to decorate products once they're done. Paint booth and Cricut machines and a roll-in printer cutter and some of those other things. That's kind of the basics. What we did, Richard, we did community consulting early on to see what was needed.
Right.
And it became fairly clear that you can't just open up a space and say, anybody creative who wants to do something, come along, because there's many, many different brands of creativity. And we looked at it and said, music, that's pretty well served. Food, that's taken care of. The university's there for chemical related things. That's a whole world unto its own. And we started narrowing down things that we should do and shouldn't do. And there seemed to be a fair bit of support for people who wanted to design textiles, shirts, whatever it might be. So we narrowed into physical products, things
Right.
made of plastic, wood, things made of steel, things with some electronics, a bit of programming associated with them. That really seemed to be the hole that we were filling.
Right.
And so we tried to take the budget that we had and do a good job of getting whatever equipment we might need for those items.
Right. So you mentioned training, and I've looked on your site and I see that a lot of your courses seem to fill up pretty quickly. So what you provide training for all the equipment you use, as well as, I presume, safety and those kinds of things?
Yeah, every person that comes into the space is required to do an orientation, a safety training orientation. It's part
Right.
of our, what I would call, fairly solid safety program. We're considered a light industrial space, so we need to be careful.
Right.
So everybody gets safety training. That gives people access to hand tools, and then every piece of equipment thereafter, there's a checkout process, a training process. And part of that is taking an evening course on something that you prove yourself with it, then you're able to use it and move forward.
Right.
We are, I don't even want to bring up COVID, but COVID is really the primary reason that our classes fill up very quickly right now,
Ah,
because we're limited in numbers.
right.
But what we often do and have been doing is we'll take wait lists and put on extra courses whenever it works for people. We try to do 3 to 5 training courses a week. Sometimes that swells to 6 and 7, just so we can really try and meet the demand. It runs from everything to basic exposure to welding, how to use a laser engraver, how to do SolidWorks design, how to use a table saw, making products, making particular projects. There's a real variety. What we're trying to do is be told what to do. We
Right.
listen to what people are asking for. We'll find somebody to teach that course, and we'll put it on.
Right. So it sounds to me like it's, the fact that you're starting from the basics and working your way up to more complicated things means that it's much more accessible to a much broader range of people.
We're a big part of what we battle is machine intimidation.
Ah,
So you have somebody who comes into that space for the first time, and they look at a machine and it's got flashing lights and it's got sharp objects, it's got tools, it's got things, and they go, "I could never learn it. This is too much for me."
right.
We have particularly some retirees who would come in and say, "Oh, I'm not computer savvy. This isn't the place for me." And we said, "Hold on, let's give us an evening, and we'll show you how to run a laser, and you'll find that it's not much different than printing something at home on your own printer."
Right.
So there's a lot of machine intimidation that we deal with, and it's really, really rewarding to see that melt away and to see people become really comfortable using things that looked unattainable, and they're just not, right? So that's a big part of the training that we're doing.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. So how does it work if I have to become a member? What's your fee structure like? How does that work?
We like to tell people that the makerspace is a lot like a YMCA for
Ah,
makers.
okay.
So pretty well the model applies. The YMCA has equipment that many people don't have at home. You come in, there's a variety of membership options that gives you various levels of access and access to training and whatever else it might be, and away you go. So we do monthly, quarterly, annual memberships. We've got a 10-use punch pass. Whatever it's suitable for. We've developed different membership models because people asked. We've got a corporate membership. We've got an educational membership for some of the educational facilities. Just try and really meet the need. The reality is nobody really knows exactly what the best way is to run one of these places, and they are going to be so different according to the community's needs. So we really try and listen and be reactive.
All right. Super. So final question. It's a bit open-ended. If I was somebody who had an idea for a product and I was wondering what to do about it, what advice would you give me?
Uh, Really, when it comes to product development, I feel a lot of people put the wrong end first. A lot of people want the company name and they want to register their business and make sure they've got the website set up, and then they begin development. Over and over again, what we see is you're far better off to come in and just build whatever it is you're thinking of. The first one, make it out of cardboard if you have to. You'll learn so much, and then work forward from there. The truly just try it is the best way for physical product development. You'll very quickly identify the big issues. Very quickly, you can find somebody who will solve those. Um, it, that to me is I've seen it over and over again. Instead of sitting back and thinking too hard about something, just go try it. It'll short circuit so much of the trouble.
Excellent. Listen, well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I've been speaking with Matthew Swan, director of the Nova Scotia Makerspace in Sydney, Nova Scotia, and we'll see you next time on Cape Breton Movers and Shakers.